I'm not, 100% confident, I just I know the caliber of fighter that Errol is, just like I know the caliber fighter of Tim. I think both of them have taken a lot of damage in their career so far. But I just think, Errol skill-wise, just edge.
I disagree. I think Errol Spence is the sharper fighter. I do. I think he's the sharper fighter. I think he's crispier. And I think his shot, his punch selection is better. And I think that he has the better shot of landing that right punch at that right.
With fight night drawing nearer, the discussion surrounding Errol Spence Jr. and Tim Tszyu is heating up more than ever. Past champions, coaches, and well-known boxing analysts have now shared their final forecasts, adding even more fuel to the anticipation. The question now is simple. Who are they choosing to win? Ahead of this highly anticipated clash, we're going to go through each expert's pick and see where the support is landing.
The kid really is special. Like, the dude really is special. And I know
he's not Dennis Nurkic.
I know these things about him. Like, he has the ability to see your balance and make you move. You know what I mean? Like, he's really like one of those master kung fu artists, but in boxing. You know what I mean? So he's a masterful boxer. You know?
Yeah.
And so those are the kind of things that we're looking at Tim Tszyu that doesn't have that kind of style.
Roy Jones Jr. added his voice to the conversation, viewing the matchup between Errol Spence Jr. and Tim Tszyu as a closely contested return bout, with both fighters trying to reestablish themselves at the top level. He highlighted Tszyu's knockout ability as a serious danger, while also emphasizing that Spence has already shared the ring with several heavy punchers throughout his career, which makes this fight especially hard to call.
Tszyu in Australia, what are your thoughts there?
I think it's a really good fight too. The good thing about the fight is that they both are on the way back up. They're on the rebound. So he's a rebound guy fighting another rebound guy, which makes it kind of equal, but Tim Tszyu is a hard puncher. So we'll have to see what happens. I think Earl is used to dealing with hard punchers, but we'll see.
Teofimo Lopez also shared a similar view, referring to the Errol Spence Jr. versus Tim Tszyu clash as a dream-style matchup, while expressing his backing for Spence to come out on top. He praised Spence's discipline in the gym, pointing out that he already appears to be in strong physical condition as he approaches the fight.
It's a dream come true. Errol Spence, Australia, Tim Tszyu. Heck yeah, I really want to see him win. I don't think so. I think Errol Spence has been truly non-stop working out. He already looks like he's in shape now.
Eddie Hearn offered a different perspective on the matchup, suggesting that Tim Tszyu is a much more threatening fighter than people currently recognize. He admitted that Tszyu's recent losses have shifted how fans view him, but maintained that his skill level is still very strong and he remains a serious contender. Hearn also pointed out that Errol Spence Jr. returning after a 2-year break adds another layer of risk, describing the fight as both an intriguing and highly dangerous challenge.
Yeah, I actually think it's a good fight. I think Tim, for a while now, Tim has been a much avoided fighter because, there was this kind of perception of him that he was this monster. But the reality is he's had a couple of defeats and people look upon him now as a kind of opponent. And that's what Errol Spence's team are doing. But I think Tim's more than an opponent. I think he's a very good fighter and I think he's got a lot about him. And I think it's a very dangerous fight for Errol Spence to come back. I think it's going to be really interesting, and I wish Tim all...
Regis Prograis also added that Errol Spence Jr.'s age and extended time away from the ring raised significant doubts going into this matchup. He noted that although punching strength can stay intact, attributes like reaction time, movement, and speed tend to fade as fighters get older. Prograis emphasized that the key question will be whether Spence is still capable of slipping shots and handling Tim Tszyu's pressure once they are in the ring together.
Yeah, he's 36, he's right under me, so that is old for a fighter. Now people are thinking about it a little better, but it's still old for a fighter. So like I said, we would have to see what happens. We would have to see where Errol shows up because, the reflexes, they do leave. And that's the main thing you need in boxing. The reflex, the foot speed, the hand speed, you need that power always gonna be there. But, it's not about how you can hit. It's not a heavy bag. It's gonna hit back, so Tim Tszyu gonna hit him back. And If he can still take the punches, if he can still move from the punches, that'll be the question.
Lonnie B also raised doubts about whether Tim Tszyu is the ideal opponent for Errol Spence Jr. to return against after such a long absence from competition. He described Tszyu as a tough challenge given the timing of the comeback, and in the end, leaned towards Tszyu as the likely winner of the fight.
I think it's good. I think it's good for Spence. I mean, Tim Tszyu is a lot to bite off of a first fight back coming off his destruction of Terrence Crawford. I just think that's, if I had to pick, I would lean more towards Tim.
Tim Bradley, however, supported Errol Spence Jr. to come out on top against Tim Tszyu, pointing to Spence's solid technical base, constant forward pressure, and high output as the factors that could shut down Tszyu's aggressive approach. He also mentioned rumors that Tszyu had difficulty during sparring sessions with his younger brother, which, in his view, added more confidence that Spence would wear him down over time and secure a stoppage victory.
Errol Spence, he's one of those fighters that know how to fight. He know how to fight. Errol Spence know what the hell he got to do. Errol Spence is the master of the basics. He know what the hell he got to do. Ain't nothing going to change. He going to let them hands go. He going to take it to Tim Tszyu, and Tim Tszyu is one of those guys, stand right in front of you. He ain't one of them guys that pick up his feet and move. Nah, Tim Tszyu little brother better than him. He better than him. Tim Tszyu brother probably be whooping his ass in sparring. Yeah, he be whooping his ass. I already know he do. Yeah, lefty, he be moving his head side. You know what I mean? Like, yeah, I know he be whooping his ass in the gym for real. But they don't be talking about it. But yeah, I think Errol Spence, I think he gonna beat Tim Tszyu. He gonna knock him out. Tim Tszyu is done. He 31 and he done.
Shanzadel also provided a similar analysis of the matchup, explaining that Errol Spence Jr. poses a particularly tough stylistic problem for Tim Tszyu. He highlighted Spence's tendency to take command early with his jab, then build pressure through body shots, hooks, and well-timed uppercuts that break opponents down over time. While acknowledging Tszyu's sharp and clean combination work, Stoll suggested that Spence's strength and ability to manage range at 154 pounds could play a major role in the outcome. He ultimately pointed out that Spence's consistent jab is the main weapon Tszyu will have to figure out if he wants to gain control of the fight.
I'm interested in the Spence fight because in this fight, he still would put some, take something off the shots and then boom, finish with a sharp shot to the body, a real sharp shot to the body, or a real heavy left hook, nice uppercut here and there. And so what I'm curious about in the Spence fight, from what I've seen from each of their last fights, Spence 3 years ago against Terrence, and again, it's against Terrence Crawford. He'll make you not look good. He'll make you not quite look like what you are. But I still think Tszyu is a little sharper punch for punch. The sharp punches he would put together off his combinations, they still look sharper than Errol. But the interesting thing is, Errol Spence, I think, is bigger than him. Even though he's never officially fought at 154, I think Errol's a bigger man than him once he gets up to 54. And the main problem for Tim Tszyu against Errol is going to be that jab. What does he do against that busy, constant jab
Errol
on Errol's side?
Right?
Yeah, Errol just keeping that jab in his.
Sean Zettel further argued that Errol Spence Jr. holds a noticeable physical advantage heading into the bout with Tim Tszyu, noting that the 158-pound catch-weight agreement highlights how the size factor could lean in Spence's favor despite his long history at welterweight. He also raised the possibility that Tszyu could still be impacted by his fight against Sebastian Fondora, while describing Spence as a non-stop pressure fighter who keeps coming forward until the very last round.
It's at 158 because of Errol Spence. Even though Errol Spence has never competed at this level as a super welterweight, he was a career welterweight. He's bigger than Tim Tszyu, and Tim Tszyu thinks he's the bigger guy. And it was Spence who insisted on this fight being 4 pounds heavier at 158. So I thought between the size, between Tszyu, I think having a little PTSD, which he says he doesn't, but I do see something from Tszyu. Sometimes when he takes punches now, ever since the first Fondora fight, there's that PTSD that shows up. And Spence, whether he's well fated or not, is a Texas dog. He's gonna just keep fighting and fighting and throwing until he goes out on his shit.
Andre Dirrell, however, characterized Tim Tszyu as a pressure fighter built on strong basics rather than exceptional technical flair. While he recognized Tszyu's effectiveness in applying a direct, forward-moving style, he also made it clear that the fight is closely balanced. describing it as a genuine, even contest where both fighters face real risk.
There's nothing special, you know, in regards to his skill set. Like, again, he's just a Kung Fu fighter, and he's decent, and what he does is he's a decent boxer, you know, but this could be potentially dangerous. Again, it's 50.
Building on that evaluation, trainer Derek James said he anticipated Errol Spence Jr. to stick with his familiar fighting approach, while also warning that Tim Tszyu's resilience and forward pressure would require a carefully structured strategy. He stressed that overcoming Tszyu would depend on effective movement and intelligent boxing, adding that any fighter who chooses to exchange punches directly with him could easily get pulled into a punishing war.
You're going to do whatever you're going to do, but I think that, you know, Tim Tszyu's a very tough fighter, and you got to be able to use your feet, and you got to be able to box him, because if not, he's going to try to bang you out. So, you know, you just got to be prepared for that.
Keith Thurman assessed the matchup by weighing what each fighter brings to the table, noting that Tim Tszyu has the advantage of staying active more recently, while Errol Spence Jr. carries a more established career with proven victories over top-level opponents. He also mentioned that Tszyu's movement could play a key role in the fight, but in the end he saw the bout as a closely matched and evenly poised contest.
Tim Tszyu has the advantage of activity, and then Spence has the advantage of pedigree, right? He's been at another level. He's achieved more, even though it's at 147. I just feel like he's really done more, been in the ring with more world-class fighters, and had some victories against solid world-class fighters, where Tim Tszyu has not been as victorious when the opposition really hits that A class, you know? So that's the way I break down the fight. I say Tim Tszyu staying in motion benefits him, but the pedigree and being an Olympic boxer, just different overall things, that favors Spence, but it's a solid 50-50.
Jeff Horn saw the fight as a tight and competitive matchup, though he leaned slightly in favor of Tim Tszyu. He felt that Tszyu's more recent ring activity and sharper condition gave him a small advantage over Errol Spence Jr., whose long time away from competition remained a major question mark. In Horn's view, Tszyu's current timing and momentum positioned him as the slight frontrunner going into the bout.
Look, it's an interesting one, that's for sure, but I feel like Tim surely has to be favourite for this one, even though both guys have had some pretty bad defeats of recent. Well, not really. Spence, he's been out and for quite some time, so I think that inactivity is probably not too good for him. And Tim's at least been active. He has had some bad losses, but I would have to be leaning towards Tim for this one.
Radio Raheem offered a different take, saying that the set catch weight actually benefits Errol Spence Jr., as he does not see size as a disadvantage for him in this fight. He added that Spence is unlikely to be troubled by Tim Tszyu's physical strength, though he did recognize that Tszyu comes in with more recent momentum. Still, Raheem noted that a peak, in-form version of Spence would have been the clear favorite in this matchup.
I like the weight that the fight is at, because that means that one thing Spence won't have to focus on is making weight. He's just making it comfortable for him. That's letting you know that he doesn't think Tszyu is too big, this weight isn't an issue, and he wants to take it off the table when it comes to getting ready for this fight. So you just make it big enough where you don't even have to think about it. That ain't going to be an issue. And I like the matchup for a prime Spence. I think you would certainly agree, if we're talking prime Spence and even and prime Tszyu, we're picking Spence. The reason that you're picking Tszyu is because the fade. We're seeing what we saw last time out, the age, the layoff, and the fact that Tszyu is active, Tszyu is younger, Tszyu could potentially beat a better fighter who would have beaten him in his prime because of these extenuating circumstances. That makes perfect sense.
Barack Best also shared his view, calling the Errol Spence Jr. versus Tim Tszyu matchup a high-stakes turning point for both fighters. He suggested that each man is in need of a strong win to regain forward momentum, highlighting the bout as an important chance for Spence to show that he is still part of boxing's top level.
Oh, that's definitely happened. They're already talking about each other. That's definitely happening. I see that happening. And even though it's not a current champion, like Errol Spence probably wanted, you know, when he first started talking about coming back, he wanted to fight Sebastian Fundora, which now everybody's looking at, he's a hard guy to fight.
Wait a minute.
But that's how Spence is, you
No
know.
tune-ups.
Right, but even though he's not fighting a champion, Tim Tszyu ain't a tune-up.
Of course
You know
not.
what I'm saying? He's actually a very skillful fighter. He just has some losses now. You know, losing to Fundora, getting stopped or whatever, that hurt him a lot. And so they're both kind of like in the same boat.
Right.
Even though Spence only has one loss, they're both in the same boat where they need a good name now to put him right back on top because they're right, especially Spence, you're right there.
Zab Judah echoed that opinion, saying Tim Tszyu's style appears to line up well with Errol Spence Jr.'s key strengths. He pointed out that Tszyu's habit of moving forward and staying within punching distance could allow Spence to dictate the pace and control exchanges. While he acknowledged Tszyu's toughness and readiness to trade, Judah also noted that those traits might make him vulnerable when facing a technically strong pressure fighter like Spence.
Tim Tszyu possesses the perfect style. He's gonna be right there. You know what I'm saying? He lacks a lot of defense. You know what I'm saying? Maneuvers, and I think that's where the downfall is gonna be at. Other than that, he's a very tough fighter. He comes forward. He has a lot of heart. You know what I'm saying? He's great. But a style like a Errol Spence walk down. That's not gonna be. That's ooh. That's watch. That's what I say. No cap.
Bernie the boxer, on the other hand, suggested that holding the bout in Australia would add extra significance to the event due to Tim Tszyu's massive backing in his home country. He also noted that Errol Spence Jr. would be fighting outside familiar territory for the first time in his career. Even so, Bernie expressed confidence that the long journey, hostile crowd, and time away from competition would not prevent Spence from securing a clear and convincing victory.
I would say Errol Spence, but I think it'll probably go more well in Australia because Errol Spence never been to Australia, and he's still a big draw. He's still a big name, and Tim Tszyu obviously is a big name in Australia. So it just put more feather in his cap. Going to Australia. Fighting a guy like Tim Tszyu in his first fight back after 3 years. And I'm looking for him to look good and beat Tim Tszyu.
That brings this breakdown of the final predictions for Errol Spence Jr. versus Tim Tszyu to a close. With opinion split and strong cases made for both fighters, anticipation continues to build as fight night gets closer. It won't be long before we see which prediction proves accurate. Who do you think takes it, Errol Spence Jr. or Tim Tszyu? Can Spence pull off a successful return, or will Tszyu show he still belongs at the top of the division? Share your thoughts in the comments below. If you enjoyed the video, make sure to like, subscribe, and enable notifications so you stay updated with the latest boxing news, interviews, and fight coverage. Thanks for watching, and see you in the next one.